Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loco podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm Rich.
And we are here to do a free play fortnightly. Why can I never get into the podcast anymore? Like, isn't it? I always.
It's fine. I believe in you.
I always go. We are here today. Like, just I always do the sermon situation. I will work on that. We are here today to do a free play fortnightly podcast. But I didn't realise it was a free play fortnightly. Rich has got
your hand.
Rich has got a game that I don't know what he's playing. Yeah. But I guess well, it's up to you whether or not you want to review it and score it, or if you want to give me the scoring rights to that, then that's fine.
Right. I mean, I'm definitely going to make you score it.
Oh, okay.
For reasons that will become apparent.
for reasons unknown. But Rich does know what I'm playing. I have been playing, and I've been playing through the Journey Collector's Edition. In a weird way, in so much that I've just been playing the.
Were you like standing on your head or something?
Yeah. In so much that I've just been playing the 3 games that are in the Collector's Edition and reading up about what is also in the Collector's Edition, but not owning the Collector's Edition, because I already owned Flower, and Flowerer. or otherwise known as Journey, separately. So I wasn't going to go, but which is effectively what the collector's edition is. Yeah. But it doesn't have the few little bits on the outskirts that the trimmings, the trappings that when you look at it, there's not loads there anyway. So I don't think I'm kind of missing out on not doing that. So I'm very intrigued about what you've brought to this well-used table. I'm going to eat on the last Haribo. You can have one on the last Haribo. Thank you very much. And then, split our hearts that we've got here. Fire away. Right. And beguile me. Okay.
So, I would like to talk about the Little Tales of Alexandria.
Yep.
Do
I know this?
Yep. So, it's we're returning to Evercade land.
Okay.
So it's Gameboy Mystery. From 2022 for one imagines the Game Boy.
Okay.
But I played it on Indie Heroes 3.
Oh, cool.
And the main reason that I wanted to do this as a free play is because I don't really know how to feel about what I played. Okay. So I'm going to talk. Yeah. And then you're going to give me a number.
You're going to give me a number.
You're going
to put my feelings into an arbitrary number.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like Blade Runner.
I'm playing with your format a little bit here. So yeah, like, when you play Pokemon, old school Pokemon, you have that kind of top-down view, and you're walking around and you talk to people.
Yes.
And can occasionally look at, interact with things in the world. It's that.
Okay.
That is the game. Right?
Okay.
So you are in an apartment, and basically the entire objective of the game is to go and meet your neighbours.
Okay. What's it called?
The Little Tales of Alexandria.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm going to write that down.
You're in this apartment building. It's about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And you have to go around the other 14 or so apartments in the building and meet your neighbours and work your way up the building.
11 o'clock at night?
Seemingly.
Fucking hell, I'll be livid.
That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah. What a lovely thing to do, come round at 11 o'clock at night.
But there you are, you just barging into people's apartments and chatting to them, basically. You can interact with basically, I think it is basically everything in each of the apartments.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the one of the sticking points for me, like functionally, I guess, is because your character kind of stops, even if you're just kind of walking past an item and you have no intention of actually interacting with it. You'll get a little exclamation mark above the head.
Okay. So
kind of a prompt to press something, and you kind of can't really avoid that. Which is
so there's no exploration.
No, like you will get a line of dialogue in an internal monologue type stuff with it, but it's going to happen every time you walk past something, even if you're just trying to walk like parallel to it and not actually interact with it. So like walking past a doorway, right? You might be trying to walk past the doorway, but you're still going to get the prompt to interact with it.
Do you remember when I bemoaned in Link's Awakening that I couldn't find the fucking holes in the wall. This feels like the complete inverse of that situation.
So it's one of those ones where it's very much on its sleeve, right? Now, don't get me wrong. As you work your way up the building, some of the apartments do get surreal, right? And they do have some odd characters, and it kind of feels like the game's trying to lean into kind of like a David Lynch League of Gentlemen kind of surrealness, just without any like big jokes or anything like that. It's not trying to be a comedy, as best as I can tell. There are light-hearted bits. The game itself is maybe about 30 to 45 minutes long, as best as I can tell.
Really? Okay, wow.
It is short. It is to the point. There are times...
the point of just going to meet people in their weird little apartments.
There are times when it's got quite unsettling sort of tones and music and stuff like that. And each story kind of hints at a story, right? And you're going around and you're getting these little insights into these little worlds without ever really fully piecing a picture together, I think. And so I played it through and was like, well, that was a crock of shit. and then I was like, but is it though?
But I'm thinking about it now.
yeah. Well, this is it. This is why I wanted to talk about it, because I haven't stopped thinking about it, right? And I don't mean that in like a kind of, in a, oh my God, I'm so in love kind of way. I mean like, you know, like if you, it's like poetry, right?
Yeah.
Like a good poem will hint at a bigger idea. It'll lead you to some kind of emotional investment. It won't necessarily like black and white spell everything out to you. There'll be room for interpretation. There'll be room for your read on it. Other people will read it differently. You could read it in a completely different order, potentially, depending on how it's laid out. You know, and this apartment block, you could go to these apartments in whatever order you like. You could start at the top, work your way back down, and then walk back up. Like, there is an ending point that once you go through a certain door, you kind of can't turn back. You are just going to be locked in to get to the end of the game. But that's kind of it. That's the only kind of punctuation mark you'll get. And the more I was thinking about it afterwards, I was like, I'm convinced I've missed something with this game.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I will continue to be convinced I've missed something, to the extent that I will go back in at some point and spend another half hour, 45 minutes playing it through in case I have missed something. I'm reasonably confident, as I sit here right now, I'm reasonably confident I've seen everything that's in it. And yet, at the same time, there is that little feeling that there is something else bigger that it's hinting at that I'm not spotting.
Yeah.
And the more I was thinking about it, the more I was like, have I just played like an actual video game poem? Like, genuinely, seriously, and I appreciate you're laughing, but this is, I'm being deadly serious with this point. Like, so I was reading a book recently about like the kind of intersection between video games and poetry and how the two can influence each other.
Yeah.
And it was basically trying to outline what effectively an interactive poem could look like.
Okay.
And
this game.
And the more I think about it, genuinely, it was called like Jewel Wheel by John Stone, I think it was.
Okay.
And genuinely, I think I've just played it. Like, I think there is a really strong argument that the nature of the building, the layout of it, the way that you are getting these stories from people, the way you can almost pick and choose who and what you interact with as you go through, and kind of do it in whatever order you like to a point, suggests to me that actually, you know, in terms of a sort of construction of a narrative, or not, I guess, I think like there's something really clever and sophisticated going on, deliberately or otherwise. Like I would genuinely struggle to tell you how deliberate it was. I would like to think
that's my issue here.
I would like to think it was deliberate, but granted, I am making a lot of assumptions on that front. And yet, like there is something about it, and I just can't shake that feeling. And maybe it's, you know, my own personal context that I'm bringing a lot to it, and the fact that I just happened to read this thing, and then I happened to play this, and it happened to line up. Like maybe that has somehow elevated it beyond anything that it had any right to be, if you were looking at it objectively. Like I fully appreciate all that, but at the same time, there is, I don't know, it's the work of, as best as I can tell, a single person. Like Mr. E is literally Mr. like Mr. and Mrs. E, which suggests to me that it's a single person. I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly from the manual in the Evercade cartridge, I'm pretty sure it's a single person. So like it's got that kind of auteur focus on a vision.
Yeah.
You know, this is what that person wanted to put out as an artwork. And I think that's probably a point that makes me lean towards it being deliberate a little bit more.
But it feels like you need the manual there to make that point, to make you think, or to point in that. Like maybe you don't
agree with that.
Sorry, so I'm speaking about me here, aren't I? What I mean is that for something to be considered artwork, I need someone to tell me that it's artwork, almost. Like, not what it is, or how you're meant to interpret it, but just someone needs to say, this is art. And then I'll go, right, okay. Where if someone says that this is the intersection here, this is a video game, I'd be like, well, this is a crock of shit.
So yeah, and that is a valid point. So like it is, again, in the manual, it's billed as, you know, like a short narrative adventure.
Okay.
And I guess if you were saying that it's an adventure game and you were being charitable, then yes, it is interactive in like the barest minimum terms.
Yeah.
You walk, you can interact with things by effectively pressing a button to think about it or talk to it, and your avatar will do that. But yes, beyond that, there really isn't much going on here.
Yeah.
But in that respect, is it not basically a point-and-click game?
I was going to say, this sounds like the start of Doki Doki Literature Club, but without any of the end part, which you know, like would make it a completely different, you know, premise.
And it's that kind of thing where it's like, where do you draw that line? I guess, but also, you know, we've talked recently about. I mean, Tony Hawk would be a good one, right? Like, you're doing a lot. When you pick up a controller and you play that, you are doing a lot. Time was video game. If you were going to be doing an interactive thing, you would walk and you would talk, and that was basically
that's true. Yeah.
So, like, sure, it's in barest minimum terms interactive for 2025.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of the medium, I do think it fills the criteria of being a video game. But when I played it, through the first time, I was just like, what the hell was that? Like, what have I just spent my time doing? Thank God it was short. And then it was only when I sat down and I realised that I was still thinking about it a couple of days later, and I was like, actually, yeah, like, and it's not like.
But does that not just speak to how much that you are an intelligent person that thinks about these things in depth?
So, I would, as I sit here right now, I would struggle to point you to a single point in the collection of stories that I hinted at, let's call it that, as being a big, impressive, moving, insightful narrative beat, right? I would struggle to point you to that. I think what impresses me about it is the form and the kind of the way that this set of stories is told. And I think that there is something to that. And it's almost like it's waiting for the right story to tell in that kind of format. And I think you could do something really effective with it.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm a fan of is the structure as a way of telling a short, concise, interesting story. That said, I do not necessarily think, from what I've gathered and what I've seen and what I've played, that this is that story. Yeah. Right? I don't think there's, and I'm having to dance around it like there's some major spoiler or interesting twist. There isn't. Yeah. Like, it gets weird, but like at the same time, it's like, well, I kind of assumed it would get weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you has to do something. I guess,
exactly. But it's not necessarily in and of itself an effective narrative, right? It's just kind of like, okay, cool. Well, that happened.
Yeah.
So I guess in that respect, if we take it as an interactive poem, right, you could still argue it's a swing and a miss in a narrative way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am so on the fence with this game. I am so unbelievable, and I know I use that phrase a lot, but this is one, this in particular, where I think you could argue that it's anywhere between a 0 and like a 7, quite happily. So it's a difficult one.
Well, it sounds like it's elicited the emotion, not an emotion, the feeling of curiosity from
That's
you.
a good way of putting it. Yeah.
If not anything strong along what you'd say are the main emotions of, like feeling happy, sad, or anything.
It didn't move me.
Yeah.
It didn't move me. But yes, as an intellectual exercise, it has piqued my curiosity. So,
which is something.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily what I was expecting from it going in. And like we said, I think that there is a not insignificant part of me that is what is making that curious. Like that, that is, I'm sitting here now going like, but maybe I could make a poem like that. Like it's, I know the tools that they use to make it and all that kind of stuff. I know they're available. I've dabbled with them, and like I could go do something not dissimilar. And I'm not saying that I would make something better, but I could see how further down the line there could be plenty of other people going, oh, you know what? That's how you can do it. That's how you can crack this particular nut and tell like a kind of, I don't know, it feels like not necessarily, and the thing that I very nearly said there was Pulp Fiction, right? That's probably not what they were going for. Where like, Pulp Fiction has an actual deliberate crossing over of stories.
I was about to say this feels like a short story, like as in there's 22 short stories about Springfield which riffs on Pulp Fiction and stuff like The Simpsons episodes. Like
it's kind of like that, but then the payoff of everything coming together at the end is not anywhere near as effective as either of those things. I was going to say
Tarantino without the violence.
It's not as effective as Tarantino or The Simpsons in pulling those stories together. But it's the kind of thing that, like, that format in slightly different hands. Well, I think you could have something really interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah. Was this the free play you were teasing for a long time that you're like?
No.
Oh no. Okay, yeah.
No, this is a different thorny one.
This is a different freak out. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that is so hard. You're right. I'm not going to give it an arbitrary number because that's what we do, and I know you don't like that, so I like doing that. But also, I'm just thinking, it just. Oh.
On the one hand, it is barely a video game.
Yeah, but we've had barely a video game being with Hatful Boyfriend being given a 9 before, so that was,
exactly. And like,
Doki Doki got 8, and that was barely a livable.
Hatful Boyfriend is probably a good thing to mention quickly, because that story, as a self-contained narrative and all that kind of stuff, was much more effective.
Yeah.
For me personally, I was much more invested in what was going on.
Yeah.
This, I barely gave a shit. Right, as I was playing it, it was just kind of passing me by. It was just washing over me, and then it was only afterwards where a couple of brain cells rubbed together and caused a spark, where it's like, well, actually, potentially there's something interesting here. So I think I am not in love with the game itself. I'm in love with the idea of what it could be. Yeah. I think is where I come down on it,
and I think therefore I have to. I'm trying to give a score, but then you don't know what the score is. Usually in this situation, we're trying to give a score where I try and guess what your score is in your head, but you just said it could be anything between 0 and 7, so I'm effectively just giving it a score. And the easiest thing to do would be to go right in the middle of that, wouldn't it, and give it like a 4.
As I talk, I think I know what I would score it.
Oh, really? You do?
I think I'm getting a clearer idea of what I would score it.
5.
That is not what I would have given.
Oh, fuck.
No, it's fine. Like that's not the aim of the game. I probably would have given it a 2.
Oh shit! I was going to say 3. Oh god.
I mean, I can put it on the spreadsheet as 3.
No, right. Okay. No, well, that's not.
I think like between
my genuine reaction was a 4. So let's go with a 4.
Okay,
that was my genuine reaction.
All right.
I think it was. I would not recommend. That this is not a recommendation to me. What you like is, but I am super intrigued. Almost more in the reactions elicited from you, which is weird, cloudy ambivalence mixed in with what could this possibly be in the future, or what could I do, or almost like an inspiration in a way.
So I think
it's such a weird fucking thing.
When we talked about Jet Set Radio, and I'm mentioning this because it's on the spreadsheet. I've just gone past it. I was like, you know what? Actually, that's probably a good parallel where we said, like it was a pioneer. Revered in its time, and then arguably the sequel went and actually made it into something a bit more rounded. And I can't help but wonder if you did like a sequel to this, or somebody else took the idea and ran with it, you could really be onto something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what. I don't know what.
You should write to the Mr. E and be like, I want to collaborate, but I don't know what about.
That's the thing. And I think, like, as a,
Banksy of the Game Boy world.
But as an interactive medium, for it to elicit a reaction like this, I have not had this reaction to a video game before, where I'm like, usually I'm quite visceral with it. Like it's modern art. I'm either going to like it or I'm not going to like it, and I'm engaging with it in a certain way. This is the first time where I've had that kind of, my heart does not give a shit. But my head has been like, oh, hello. Yeah. And I've not really had that before.
It's like an odd food that you've tried and it's given you sort of certain feelings in different parts of your body.
It's like a weird fungus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, some sort of weird mushroom that you've tried. You're like, okay. Did you know how much? I mean, well, you obviously did because have you played Flower, and Journey?
I played a demo of Flower, and I have played through Journey, which was why I felt okay doing a very cerebral narrative type
which is really
game.
good. Yeah, excellent, and well done you, because that very much, I wrote the word poetry down.
There you go.
And more than you would know about, I guess, speaking about Flow and Flower as well, how much Thatgamecompany, that is called Thatgamecompany, have developed these games to, as almost, not necessarily, don't want to call it like a scientific experiment like fucking Frankenstein or something like that, but like almost as an idea that they were like, how can we elicit emotion from people by developing a video game? So they all three of these games, although one has gone on to become one of the best rated video games of all time in Journey, that are effectively science experiments. They're there to tweak the human sort of psyche to see how you feel about things through video games, which is exactly what you were just talking about. So there are people out there doing it clearly. Listen, whether they're doing it on 2022 on an Evercade cartridge through a Game Boy medium, or they're doing it as they did with these guys. So just to kind of round back on then the Journey collection then. So you can on occasion find it on the PlayStation Store for about £11. In a physical actual editions, I think the PS3 one, which it came out for first in 2012, all three of these games, is about between 30, 40, 50 quid, depending on where you look for it in terms of actual physical. So, it holds its value. So on the collection, like I said, I'll just go back and say I didn't play the collection, but on the collection, you've got Flow, which it was which is actually a Flash game from 2006, designed by the chaps who, built the business, and, they would do, I think it was part of his dissertation, I think maybe even that he was making it. So, and then it became a digital storefront game on the PS3 and then the PSP. Flower came out on the PS3 in 2009, and then Journey came along on PS3 in 2012. And you can play Flow and Flower on the Vita, which is where I played it, and actually with Vita controls. And Journey is it's a bit weird, really, Journey, because it's obviously such a well-revered game, but I think it's kind of just stuck on the PlayStation Store or PlayStation 3 and 4, that kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, when I say stuck, that's not stuck because everyone can access it. But, that is, and I expected, when I saw that the other two had come over to Vita, I expected to see Journey on Vita, and I couldn't find a way of playing it on the Vita.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Which is odd, because it just seems so weird that Flow and Flower went PSP route and then got ported to the Vita, and Journey didn't go to the Vita. And I was like, it doesn't feel like the Vita couldn't play it. But maybe it would struggle with it. So on the actual collection, then you get original soundtracks from all the games, some director's commentary, a couple of mini games made at a game jam by the development studio as well. So they've only made one more game than these three games after this. It's called Sky. And that was out, I think it was like 6 or 8 years ago. I've never really heard of it, to be honest. But recently as 2 months ago, there was some information flown around that they were going to do an anime based on Sky and sort of the whole arc, if you will. Because Sky's just like these all seem to be almost unofficial sequels to each other,
right?
Although they're completely separate games. But I think just the idea is, around the vibe, if you will. The flow, the feeling. So yeah, it's funny because I've just kind of got separated the games out of the collection, give them all an individual score in my head, and then kind of come with a bit of a gloop of a score at the end, because I thought they're all so different and also different development points for this business, in terms of that game company, to sort of see what they've done, and you can tell they've evolved. But I figure they all need their own score, because they're so different, even though they've been, jammed together in a collection.
Yeah.
So Flow, it was the most downloaded game on PlayStation Network in 2007, which is insane, right? Okay, this is and it genuinely is like a flash game. Like, as in, there was so little to this game in terms of actual gameplay. To hear that, to say that, and I know that kind of makes sense because it's almost like the first year of the PS3, so therefore people are probably like, oh, Flow, £3.49 in the PlayStation Store.
Give that a punt.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's just amazing. So it received quite a few industry awards as well, and it generally had like pretty good reviews. The gameplay, the minimal amount of gameplay, if you've not played Flow though, so you're a small segmented creature, almost like a sea creature, if you will, on a head down view. You travel down and up different planes almost into the actual game. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm already like configuring like how I feel about this game the same that you are. Almost like, I'm thinking about the actual gameplay and things. So you move up and down these different planes by eating different colours. So there's 2 different colours on each plane, a blue, I think it is, and a red, different type of animal.
Right.
You eat these animals. There's different types of organisms, if you will, around these different planes. Most of them are just going about their business, and you're just an aggressive piece of shit that just goes around eating these animals. And you add different segments to yourself, so you can become a bigger organism and almost an evolution.
Right.
And you go up and down these planes, and you do meet some more aggressive animals, but you can never die. You just get sent back up to the next plane.
Right.
So it's almost like a bit of like a level over, go back and think about what you just did and how you interacted with that last organism, and go back to that. I mean, like that's it. That's all there really is to this game. Like, genuinely, and you do get to a point where you can. I don't know this because I own a trophy for that. And so you get to the lowest plane or whatever of the ocean, if you will, and you eat the right aggressive animal, and you become the biggest animal basically in the pond or the ocean or whatever it is you're in. And then it'll tell you, oh, well done, and it'll just kick you back to the start of the game again. And it's really mellow, and the soundtrack is just lovely, sort of this haunting kind of like nice music, but really nondescript as well. And it looks nice, but then again, you are just looking at sort of these segmented sort of animals, if you will. You kind of just move them around, like, so with the Vita, you use the Vita back controls and stuff, which actually isn't horrendous. Like, it's just it's fine. Like, it's usable.
Yeah.
You could have on the PSP, it was like used L and R. I think I remember because I remember having it at the time, and but I must have felt about it then what I feel about it now probably as well, that I didn't really get it. Like, I didn't whatever that game company were thinking they were going to elicit the emotion from me, I doubt it was the sheer disappointment that I felt when I was just super not impressed by it. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand how this led to what it leads to in a second with Flower and Journey.
And being the most downloaded game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm happy that it did, but it's very conspicuous beginnings.
Right.
As in, for me personally, it kind of had good reviews, but I feel like if you go back to it now, I wonder if people would have the same sort of feelings towards it, because it definitely feels like a beta test, but not even a good one. That's it. People probably disagree with me, and they might have more vision or understanding of what they are trying to get at. I didn't just go, this is shit, and I did try and think about it after, as you did afterwards, and kind of think, how did that pull any emotion from me? And it didn't it didn't do anything for my head or heart really.
Right.
Yeah, that's a 3 out of 10 for flow for me. So how much more money do you need to pay for 2 more letters?
I don't know. How much money do you need to pay for
another £4. Another £4 to pay for flour. So 3 years later, this had, comparative to good reviews for flow, this had glowing reviews. And actually it was, at one point, it was exhibited in the Smithsonian as art of video games.
Okay.
So it a lot of people have seen it, and the arts world, a lot of people have seen it as well. So, it was only one of 80 games to have been in that collection. So if you think about that, it's like
pretty impressive.
I think that probably has some sort of recency bias, because I think it was like 2010 and 2011. I think everyone's like, "Oh, look at this game." So, but yeah, so still a reasonable price but at the same time, I mean, flow, I guess, lasted maybe about 45 minutes, similar sort of time to Tales of Alexandria. Little Tales of Alexandria, even, sorry. Flower, I think about 2 hours it took me, maybe.
Okay.
An hour and a half, maybe. So this was designed with a specific idea that it was meant to provoke positive feelings, all about nature and urban tensions. So, and I guess you're saying, because you've played it and you might have felt those feelings yourself. A lot of the early tests with people using it, apparently it came back saying that there was a bit too much of a green message about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Go on. Why?
Well, too much of a green message.
Yeah. Oh. No. Well, that is weird, isn't it? Yeah,
it's literally called flower.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Interestingly enough, at the end, I felt like there was still a strong green message to it. I didn't think that.
Funny that.
So I was like, how have they dulled that then? Because apparently they did, and I was like, I think what they were trying to. I think the reason they wanted to try and change that was they weren't necessarily meant to be going for an environmental message. I think they thought they were going for. Right. They wanted to go for this happiness and talk about the nature versus urban / how do we live together situation. But I don't think you can have that conversation without talking about environmental factors. So I was like, that feels like a high into nothing. Like, isn't you're going to end up eventually going, do I like the world that I live in, or do I not give a shit? Like, so I thought that was a weird thing. In terms of the actual gameplay itself, so there's 7 levels, including the credits level, and it's again a very basic gameplay. You kind of control the wind, effectively, of blowing this single petal at the start of a level, and you gather more petals to your cause, if you will, whatever that is, like
more rebel flowers.
Your rallying cry is a flower petal, as you move around with the wind. So again, the Vita, you use the Vita controls to you can use touchscreen if you want to. I found that quite difficult to do. But gyroscopically you can move around as well, which was easier. So they kind of had 2 solutions, of which one was good and one was shit. And I was like, why have you done the touchscreen if the gyroscope was doing the work in the first place? Bit odd. But yeah, the port's fine. It looks beautiful. Just such a step on from Flow, in terms of the amount of content there, the narrative, how good it looks, just how many things actually physically fill the screen. There's an actual world. There's goals that is in, and there is much more so noticeable than Flow. Like, yeah, you could fail at a plane on Flow, but but then you couldn't die. And the same with this, you can't die, but you can lose all your petals and, to various urban issues that come around. It's a bit slow to start, but it really builds into something. And it's a beautiful little, and I said little, and it's certainly on the Vita, it's a beautiful little world that you live in. And it feels like a really nice, refreshing break from life, I would say. That is in almost nice. It's a good little hour and a half. Not perfect, and not necessarily the massive step on to say that it's a work of art in the Smithsonian for me personally, but certainly I thought it was pretty good. I didn't hate it. 6 out of 10 for Flower. Nice. So again, the music's dynamic, I think, as well. So every time you touch another petal and stuff, and you notice that as it kind of the difference in the notes and things. The last level really becomes a beautiful cacophony of all the music and all the sort of art moving together and things. And when you're whooshing around a city at fast pace with the wind pushing around, and it's building up to something. It's pretty good. And you can see, that's the first time you kind of really see that through thread to Journey and almost the end of Journey. So on to Journey then. Journey was a 1983 Midway game based on the Rock Band. So you collect the band's instruments, which are stolen by crazy aliens. Or now, if I did take the left path there, that would be pretty fucking awesome. But I couldn't find a copy. Or it's a 2012 game on the PS3 that is regularly included in the greatest games of all times lists. So I don't know whether or not the Journey from 1983 game is original.
Signed off on it,
but it sounds fucking brilliant. Like, isn't who doesn't want that? Crazy aliens have stolen the band's instruments. So I genuinely did try and find it to play. It might be on the Evercade somewhere. So I remember talking about Journey on I think it was episode 52. Yeah, it will have been, because that was our first year anniversary when we talked about the 100 games, best games of all time. We did a bit of a draft, and this was on my list of games to play. I think have I completed that list now since? Silently, maybe. There was 5 games that we hadn't played that we wanted to play. I might be getting there, maybe. So yeah, this was on there. Journey. What did I expect? It wasn't what I expected when I came to it.
Okay.
I kind of expected something of its ilk. I think I expected more, and that sounds negative, but what I mean is that I expected... it took me about 2.5 hours to finish. To see it up in the greatest games of all time, the echelon, like I expected a bit more. But that isn't to say that it isn't brilliant, because it is. But I expected like a 10 out of 10 sort of visionary game that like I'd never seen before, and it was a little bit less than that, I think. Going back to, and we can discard we don't have to discard. We're not discarding the score. The score stands over what it stands, but almost in the same vein of with Shadow of Colossus, for example. I'm at that level where I was like, I expected, the creme de la creme, the height of gaming, and I got that little bit underneath, where I think it probably just been built up in my own head into something that it necessarily wasn't.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I came away with Journey. But this is why I'm trying to this is why scoring's quite good sometimes. I was definitely higher on this than I was on Shadow of Colossus. And there's several reasons for that. But it almost felt like that kind of... I don't know. It just fell down at the last little bit where I was like, I kind of got done and I was like, I was like, a positive, huh? Like, how, before I kind of get into it a little bit more, what was when did you last play Journey, and what did you think of it and stuff?
So I would have played it a fair while ago now. It is one of the soundtracks that I own.
Yes, that was something you mentioned. I think you said it was like
probably worth noting. I don't know if it would be the sort of first time, or like certainly early on. Like, well, no, not quite, but like one of the first times that I played a game and was like, oh, actually, like they can achieve like that kind of level of artistry, where it's kind of on paper, kind of like Tales of Alexandria, like kind of a non-game, and yet somehow used its form to elicit a reaction from me. And I really enjoyed the kind of integration of some of the online bits and stuff like that, and just kind of crossing paths with people in a way that for once was completely like non-violent and all that. And like you don't have to interact with them beyond the bare minimum of jumping and some kind of call type thing.
There is 2 buttons, isn't there? There is a jumpy float. And then there is, and then there's the symbol call thing. Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked that notion that like somehow you might all have been going the same way, you might not, but that's kind of not really what the focus is. Like you are just doing your own trip. Yeah. And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I, again, like Tales of Alexandria, like there was something about it that stayed with me after I stopped playing it,
Mm-hmm.
Where I, kind of like you were just alluding to, had that initial reaction of, and then it was over time that it kind of got its hooks in me.
Yeah.
Rather than like there and then that kind of initial instant gratification type thing, it just took its time to sink in. So yeah, I've definitely got a soft spot for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so. Again, to reveal behind the kimono, for example, like it with, as I said with Flower, this game was designed to. It was meant to give you a sense of awe and wonder and feeling small in a big world. And
and I love how it looks for doing that as well.
Yeah. And it does. That the story is driven really by, I guess, what, cave paintings almost and narratives on walls, and they say a lot with very little.
Yes,
and that is incredible. That is so they do such a great job of, and this is maybe probably where I'd be a bit more preferential over Little Tales of Alexandria. I like to have some sort of narrative drive, even if it's not that it's necessarily giving you everything. You can still fill that world, but you still have to have some sort of string to pull it along on. That is for me personally. I like to have something where you kind of like, I am myself all the time, and I have my own thoughts and sort of things to worry about, and I don't know where my life's going. So it's nice to kind of sort of get that feeling in a video game as well, and you do kind of
have a sense of direction.
Yes, yeah. So I'd rather have a sense of direction in a video game, some sort of structure around my life. To know that I'm going to the top of that mountain for some reason, I don't know what that reason necessarily is, but I know that I need to get up there. And you get that illusion to what's happened within this world in terms of, you get the random enemies, that these sort of sweeping sort of Goliaths that are flying through, that again, for me personally, do the same sort of thing that Shadow Colossus did, in terms of having that threat of sort of having these giant things flying around that kind of like suck your soul out with your scarf. Effectively, they just steal your scarf, basically. Those bastards. And visually and, as you said, audio, just incredible. Especially
sweeping.
Yes, sweeping. Very much so. And as you get to the crescendo of that, that is so on point. As you make your way towards the end of this journey, and you don't really, I wouldn't say you necessarily go through a lot in the game, but you end up getting through. 2 hours worth of gaming, but I don't think you necessarily sort of see that you end up with that many issues. Because it's a bit like I'm trying to think really. I don't think that during this journey you go through too many hardships. I think the hardships have already happened almost. And you kind of get the little sort of.
That's interesting.
This is for me again, completely subjective, but it's almost like
that's art.
I feel like the world has already had its fair share of grief and destruction around you, and you almost see like these little, I guess they're gravestones of people from within your world that you pass. They're one of the only things that you kind of pass a lot of the time, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of, I assume, dead people or whatever you are here, and there's not much left, and you seem to be one of the last things that's left. So yeah, the world is not filled with necessarily previous hope, but just you making this journey is what starts to fill you with a sense of wonder and what the nice thing might be over the hill kind of thing. And I want to go on to the multiplayer because I think that's probably the kicker that puts it over the top for me, that makes it better than what I got with Shadow Colossus personally, was that, and this is the best sentence I've ever came up with in my entire life, non-optional cooperation. In the world, in real life, how much non-optional cooperation do we have to go through every single day? There are billions and billions of people, and every single person has a different sense of direction, and everybody has something else going on that's different, and everyone has different thoughts all the different time, and all the time there is this sense of non-optional cooperation that we have to get through. And then the makers of this game have realised that, taken that and gone, here's this multiplayer that we've got here, this non-optional cooperation where anybody at any point can join into your game and get together with you, and you are both making your way towards this goal, but you can't really talk to each other. But like, as in, you can cooperate. You don't have to, and it's almost like so. That's just genius. That is just the bit that puts it over the top for me compared to sort of like, you know, like what I was feeling about some other games of the same sort of ilk where I was like for example, Unravel. Unravel is a great game that, and yeah, the reason that I sounded absolutely mental there is because my phone melted and stopped recording, so I was just losing my mind with all the words that I could get out. Unravel.
You were unraveling.
Yeah, I was unraveling. Yeah, Unravel. So it's just one of those games that just stands on the shoulders of giants when it comes to, you can just tell that it's come with a through thread about, you know, Yanni, great name, Yanni, that's just come from the games like Flower and Journey and added a little bit more narrative in the background, but it still has that emotional heft. And I have more preference probably for Unravel 1 and 2 together as a collection than possibly all this collection together. That's not to say that this isn't really good. But I think that set of games learned from this and became even better. But yeah, the thing with Journey is that I think that it looks amazing, that it sounds amazing, that the themes are great and the story's brilliant. I just don't think it had the impact on me that I thought it was going to have, which shouldn't be held against it necessarily, but you know when you just think something's going to have an impact on your life, and it just stops a bit shy of that, and you're like, okay,
I'm ready to be moved.
by it. Yeah. And I wasn't, when I finished it, the first journey through, I wasn't necessarily excited to go again. Where I've seen people say, I've played it hundreds of times, and you know, and everything, and I'm like, wow, that is I'm like, that's amazing for you, but I just.
Maybe that's the kind of weight of expectation, though.
Yeah.
Like you say, because when I first played it, rather, like, it probably wasn't appearing in, like, greatest games of all time lists yet.
Yeah.
You know, it was well regarded, but, like, GOAT?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do wonder if perhaps the timing was on my side, maybe.
I'm going to say it's like an 8 out of 10 for me. It's great. It is so good. That is in, but it wasn't the thing that I thought it was going to be for me. You know, the 2 hours that I spent with that game, like felt better, much better than Flower, and Flower felt much better than Flow, and you can just see how they've built upon that, and then this game company that's clearly had a vision from what they started with, and gone, this is how we're going to evolve each game within itself, and then evolve each game into this idea of this test of humanity, you know, and what humans think about video games, and what from the narrative that we tell in that video game, what they think about each other. And I genuinely do think that my favourite part of that was that non-optional sort of the multiplayer, that someone could just kind of invade your game at any point, but the invasion is to come and help each other up the mountain. That isn't.
Yeah, and like there's one of the things that sort of stuck in my mind from playing it originally was like you'd trudge for ages on your own, and then suddenly there'd be this other entity, and you just kind of like the number of times where we would just like jump around each other and use the sort of calling
What do we
button.
do? What do we do?
But it was almost like this kind of weird little dance. So we were just happy to see each other.
Yeah.
And then you'd kind of part ways again eventually and stuff like that. And it was just like, there was something about like having what felt like a positive interaction with somebody in a game online was like friggin' unheard of for me.
And what made it even more poignant for me was that even in 2025, there was somebody there.
Was there?
One person the whole journey.
Wow.
And to run into just one person about 85% of the way in when you're going up the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I'd read that this could happen and I wanted it to happen, and it was nearly didn't happen, and then it did.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And I was just like, and it was just, and it was even then, it was a fleeting moment. Like, like literally we bumped into each other, like called to each other a couple of times. And then I was like, I'm going to go start walking up the mountain, guy.
Well, I'll be on the way.
And he just never came. He or she or they just never came with me. And they were just like kind of still sort of like, they didn't seem to move at all. And I was like, But that made it even more special. It was just like 30 seconds of interaction with this person.
That in itself is a story. Wow.
And it was so weird. And I was like, oh yeah. And I think that's what made it really more exciting. The promise, as you said, with Little Tales of Alexandria, the promise of what might be next or what might happen, or the positive emotion that is elicited from those few interactions. That's cool. That is I might shy away from it maybe a little bit with these games as well, because I've researched them as well, and I've researched that they've openly said afterwards they were trying to elicit certain emotions. And so therefore, I'm like, well, how much expectation do I have that I should have felt that emotion? Almost in a way.
That's an interesting point.
So I think like you said, the time you came to it was probably a good point. I've probably come to it too late and not had that and looked into it too much. And then I've gone to it and gone, all right, okay, I can see why they're trying to drive certain or pull certain levers here that maybe make me. And it's not that they still managed it to a great extent. I think probably I just saw behind the curtain a little bit too much, maybe, of what they were trying to do, or maybe thought about it a bit much.
It's interesting you mention that, because again, with Little Tales of Alexandria, there was that moment of like, I could go and do some digging to find how deliberate and how preconceived this idea was, or like how much of it I'm reading into it. And then I kind of deliberately started to shy away from that.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like not knowing, and I kind of like the speculation. I kind of like being able to read into it the way that I have, because that somehow makes me feel that kind of deeper connection to it. So yeah, I could totally see how that could be the case with Journey. And if you've kind of, like you say, peeked behind the curtain a bit too much, I could see how, like, it's not necessarily a spoiler, but it's almost like a kind of emotional spoiler.
Yes. Yeah. That's definitely how it felt, I think. I mean, I don't think I've got anything else to say really, apart from the fact that I felt as a collection now, like as a whole score for the collection now, probably a 7 out of 10. And I'd say that the end of Flower and Journey itself are doing a lot of heavy lifting on that. I cannot recommend that people play Flow if you do get the collector's edition. So if you went and bought Journey by itself, for example, then I don't think you're probably missing out a little bit on Flower, but you're not missing out on much. That is, if Journey comes up as cheap on the PlayStation Store, for example, like for £5 or whatever, and collector's edition never dips below £11, I'd probably just go and buy Journey and see what that's about, rather than, because that's the culmination of that game company's work, rather than, I would say, the earlier stuff that just feels like it's building up to things. And I know sometimes that feels like you're saying, "Oh, cut that bit of work out because it's not,
somehow not valid."
Yeah, it's not valid. I'm not saying that. I just don't think that it's worth the time or the money, even a few quid, to necessarily go, this is what you should go and see about that, really. Sounds harsh, doesn't it? But I'm saying it out loud.
Well, I mean, it's, if you appreciate this work, then you have other things you can drill into if you're that way inclined to see the sort of stepping stones. Yeah. But yeah, if you're coming into it, I get that.
Okay, it's getting late. We need to go and just knock on some random flats somewhere and see what kind of emotion we elicit from the people of Horsforth. I'm sure they'll be pleased to see us. Yeah. Two random men at
definitely
10 p.m. at night. On that note, thanks very much for listening, guys.
Cheers.
Bye. Right.